Welcome everybody to the Fantasy Golf Insider webcast and podcast. I'm Jeff Bergerson. My screen name on daily sites is JT Bergerson. Joined as always by my partner, Zach Turcotte. His screen name is Mysteriously. On daily sites, we're with fantasygolfinsider.com. If you haven't already, be sure to check us out. We have one of the elite sites available with all the tools you need to be a successful and profitable fantasy golf player. So check us out. Just to mention, this webcast is also available as a podcast. You can check it out on iTunes. Be sure to give us a glowing review on iTunes. We'd appreciate that. And subscribe to us on our YouTube channel as well. Last week, the long-standing tradition of the CareerBuilder Challenge, Zachary, where for the second straight week we had the winner come out of the second playoff hole. Jason Duffner benefited from David Lingmerth plunking it in the water on the 18th.
Very strategically placed. Yeah.
What did you think of the event? Any takeaways that you had?
I thought it was pretty exciting. It was another event where we looked at it last week coming in, and you start looking at the salaries up at the top. And I think it's going to be similar in this early part of the year, at least until we start getting closer to the majors where some of the bigger names start coming back. And you look at the top salaried guys a lot of weeks, and there's no real clear-cut choice on who the winner is. But what Draftkings has done is they've kind of kicked it back to us a little bit in that they've made the top part of it a little bit difficult, but the middle parts and bottom parts from about 7,000 to 9,000 have a lot of big names in there. So I think as we go on through the season, we saw over last season that it was really the stars and scrubs approach that was able to win a lot of these events. But so far, the first couple of weeks, you could really do a balanced team of a lot of middle-range guys. I mean, if you started the last week with Duffner and then just kind of worked your way down towards some of those other high-quality names of guys who ended up doing really well, you know, a guy like Lingmerth in there, Smiley Kaufman up there. So there's a lot of guys that are right in that middle range that I think you're gonna see similar to this week, where you can win an event by having a more balanced roster or just rostering one stud and then 4 or 5 guys that are right in that middle range. So it was an exciting event. Scores really pretty similar. I mean, we heard a lot of people talking back and forth about, wow, the stadium course,
so
and it's going to be so hard. You looked at really how it compared with the course that it replaced.
Yeah.
It was really pretty similar.
It was a little bit more difficult than the other two, but it still wasn't difficult.
Sure, yeah, and I won a very easy $50 off of our member Glenn Chorney, who bet me that the winning score would be under -20 for the week. So I was happy to take that down. But
I'm just glad you recommended a few guys like Andrew Loop and Luke List and Bud Cauley to me before the tournament.
Is that what
so I
did?
can load up on them in my GPPs.
You know, actually, it ended up going okay. Those deep value guys in the 6,000s did really well for me. Mark Hubbard's somehow becoming our cut maker this year. He's now 7 for 7, so yeah, he had a nice week. Castro had a great week, and then Lucas Glover, I think he's the guy that you wrote up in the fall. Had spent some time at the end of the year on the web.com tour. So, guy who formerly won the U.S. Open years back, and then he's on the web.com tour because he can't putt anymore, and he's found something in his game here towards the end of the summer, and it carried over into the fall, and it's carried over during the first couple weeks of the 2016 season. So he did well. We had a few strange misses. Ali Schneiderjans fell off the face of the earth starting on Thursday and pretty much going all the way through Saturday, which was pretty disappointing. We like to find guys where we can break a long cut streak. So Brandon DeJong was another guy who had made 7 straight cuts. Here he didn't fare too well, but 16 of 20 overall. So pretty pleased with how the picks were. Fell out for us. I mean, 80%. I never feel too bad about that. So.
One interesting thing I'd like to point out to our viewers is the winning lineup of the $3 GPP on DraftKings. We analyze the winning lineups very closely to see what we can take from them. Zach, of course, wrote the 4-part piece that we highlighted in December after we researched all the data. The winning roster on the $3 was Duffner, Charles Howell III, Smiley Kaufman, Siwoo Kim, David Lingmerth, Jamie Lovemark.
Yeah, balanced lineup.
What I found interesting was, I've never seen this before, is that not one of those players was owned by less than 11% of the field.
Wow. Yeah.
No one was owned by more than 18% of the field, but no one under 10. It's the first time in over a year since we've been analyzing the data that that's been the case.
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting. One big mistake that I see people make is they try and identify too many low-owned guys, and they really sacrifice value. There needs to be a balance between providing value and having a little low ownership. Now, I think in your columns, you saw the sweet spot was one or two guys under 10%.
Yep, that's typically what it was last season, particularly for the $3. And I think it gets back to the idea of contrarian versus stupid.
Right, yeah.
You know, is it contrarian? Does the guy really have an opportunity to play well here? Or is it just stupid? Am I just being kind of foolish and hoping that...
taking too many shots.
Yeah, I think that's what people do. They'll try to pick a lot of guys outside of their core group. They'll have maybe one guy in their core, and then they'll put 5 guys out there that they aren't going to put in any other lineups and hope by some miracle that all 5 of those guys make the cut and all 5 of those guys come through. Yep. And typically that doesn't end up happening. Right. No, you have to do it, just isolate a couple guys, sprinkle them in among your other core players, do it again and again and again for these multi-entry events. And that's where you're going to start to see yourself having some success. You're going to have a lot of misses, a lot of less than optimal lineups, but it just takes 1 or 2 of those to kind of jump through. Yeah,
I mean, you can have a couple chalk plays on your team and then just mix in some low-owned guys, and you can have a winning GPP squad. So that's our takeaway from last week's winning $3 GPP. We had some people members who had a lot of success last week. They tweeted us. Parman had a nice GPP win on Draftkings. Jim Phelps, congratulations. You finished top 30 in the $3 GPP out of 77,000 people. Ryan Cook was making a run deep in the $3 contest yesterday. I saw him tweeting. Jared Ludeman, who took 4th in the $300 on Draftkings. He's the defending fantasy golf world champion. The champ is here. Fantasy golf world champion at Draftkings. We met him out in Boston. Great dude. Fellow Minnesotan? Yeah, fellow Minnesotan, so we're proud to say that he did well yesterday as well. Congrats to all of you other folks who did well. I heard from a couple others. Keep it going. If you haven't had a lot of success the first couple weeks, keep good bankroll management and keep good building good rosters, have a good core cash group that you're using, and stick to the be disciplined with your if you're really struggling, lineup building. Feel free to hit me up. Shoot me an email, Zach at fantasygolfinsider.com. Just shoot me what your lineups are looking like. I hear from a couple people who just seem to continue to struggle again and again and again. And don't just wait out there and lose a little bit of money at a time and slowly get skinned while everybody else has got a process that's been working. Touch base with us. Sit down, we'll walk you through kind of the process of what it should look like. Oftentimes it's just 1 or 2 players on your cash game team that can make all the difference in the world. Can make all the difference between. I had a couple people last week reaching way down into the 6,000s and saying, "Well, what about Stuart? On their cash game? What about Stuart Sink for cash this week?" I don't want to think about Stuart Sink for cash. No. So, don't take those risks, because 1 or 2 small tweaks typically can change it from being a losing week to a winning week. I detailed my cash game approach in the first preview of the year for the Hyundai Tournament of Champions. If you want to look back at that preview, it's under the Expert Columns tab on the website. I detail exactly how I build my cash game teams. I do 3 teams each week based upon a core of about 10 to 15 guys. I never roster the same guy on all 3 teams. So I'm diversified, but I'm not over-diversified. So if you want to look back at that approach, feel free. Anything else to close on the CareerBuilder Challenge in partnership with the Bill Clinton Foundation? No, I think that covers it. All right, on to shots of the week. The first shot of the week, so we got a good shot and a bad shot this week. The first one has to be a good shot because it would have been the shot of the year had it gone down. You know which one I'm talking about? Jason Duffner on 17. Yep, out of the rocks, a phenomenal shot in a clutch moment too. I put my dark magic on. I said, "Oh, this is going to be good right here." Yeah, that's right. Boom! Almost right in the cup. It's pretty amazing. Yeah. So that's our first shot of the week. It has to be. The second one is going to be our ugly shot of the week, brought to you by our friend, the Ass Man.
Yeah, I know. We kind of liked him for a while. I don't know that we wrote him up much, but we kind of followed along his little trek of
He's made a lot of cuts, yeah.
Again and again, and then this week just kind of tumbled off a cliff.
Of course, I'm talking about Tyrone Van Asvegen, and he had a 9-ball on the 5th hole of the first round. And I have the shot tracker to prove it.
I love when they get it out of the way the first day. We don't have to think about it after that. It was so obvious as we're reading it coming out of the airport. It was like, oh, yep, there it is right there.
So I'll let you take the second shot if you'd be so kind. Shot 1, 238 yards to the water. Shot 2, Zachary. Penalty stroke. Come on. Shot 3, 239 yards. To the water.
Down the hatch.
Shot 4, penalty stroke. Shot 5, 257 yards to the right intermediate, 206 yards to the hole. Shot 6, 197 yards to the green, 26 feet 10 inches to the hole. Shot 7, putt 24 feet, 3 feet 6 inches to the hole. Shot 8. 4 feet 5 inches.
Missed the 3-footer just
18
to finish
inches
off
to the hole.
And
Shot 9 in the hole. 9-ball. The Ass Man.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I don't even know. What do they call a 9? Is there a name for a 9? I know we got 8 as a snowman.
Yeah, I don't know.
9. We need a creative name for what a 9 is. Maybe we'll call it a Bergerson.
I stop at 8.
I just pick it up at that point.
I'll take an 8. I will. He also had a snowman in the 3rd round, so he mixed a 9-ball and a snowman in a high-quality tournament for Tyrone. I know he's a big guacamole fan, isn't he?
I know. He never hit me up for the rest. He made the last cut in the fall, and I said that deserves access to my world-famous guacamole recipe,
Right.
but he never
didn't
hit
take
me
you up
for
on
that.
it?
That's fine. It'll stay a family secret for years and years.
All right. So that's our shots of the week. If you want to nominate a shot of the week for the coming weeks, feel free. Shoot it to us via email or Twitter. We're happy to nominate you. You just have to shoot us a picture of you taking a shot.
Take a shot. Yeah, exactly.
Take a shot, and we'll put it up on our webcast. So on to the next segment, Zach's favorite, Wacky Wagers. You want to tell us about being annihilated this week?
No.
Okay. Didn't happen.
Yeah. No, it was like I said. It was terrible. I basically just kind of put my teeth right around the curve like that, and just popped it in the back of the head there like this. So
Yeah.
It was,
So who took you out? Tell us about it. What happened?
Brett Skinner knocked me off. He had a pretty good team. He ran into a little bump and bruises there at the end. He'd lost Charlie Hoffman and Sabatini, but I managed to lose. Of the 16 out of 20 guys that I had make it through the cut of my picks, I managed to get all 4 guys on the team that I put against him.
Oh, beautiful.
That missed the cut. So Finau hooked me up. Ali hooked me up. De Jong hooked me up, and Watney. All guys who had pretty good track. Watney and De Jong both had really good track records, and Finau looked like he was gonna make the cut without too much problem.
It looked as though that was gonna happen.
And the last day, just started the 3rd day, 3 had some little jitters, and then all of a sudden on the
Closed with bogey, didn't it?
Yes, yeah. It was pretty fun. So I was never really in the contest, so it was frustrating. But every once in a while, we have to give away a little bit of swag. So congratulations, Brett.
There you go. Shirts in the mail.
Enjoy that for the week, and then this week
we have a new contestant.
We do somebody people may have heard of. We've got
the Fantasy Sports Network's own Jeff Feinberg.
Yeah, we took a little bit of prodding, but we got him to offer up a little bit of his Charger swag. So he's gonna put that on the line this week against us. And
we know it's very near and dear to his heart. His Los Angeles Chargers. San Diego Chargers sweatshirt.
Whoops. What's the great thing about being in Canada? You don't care where your team goes. It's 2 hours further down the coast.
So Jeff will be playing for one of our coveted hoodies in exchange. So he's going to take on you heads up. On Draftkings this week. Be sure to go on and check it out and see how that's going during the week.
Keep the offers coming in too. I mean, we're going to run these every week, so just keep them coming in. We'll keep a file on who's out there and who wants to take a shot. So keep sending out the pictures with whatever wacky fun item you want to put up against some of our swag.
No doubt. We've got a lot of questions about the swag. The hoodie is available on our online store. There's a couple new items. We got the cocktail glasses. We just got shot glasses in. Be sure to check those out. When you're doing your shots of the week, you can pick up one of our FGI Swag shot glasses.
Yeah.
So pretty cool. On to this week. The Farmers Insurance Open at Torrey Pines, which is a sweet course. And actually, it's 2 courses. Will start us out, much like last week, they alternated 3 courses. This week, they're going to alternate 2 courses.
At least they're the same 2 courses.
They are, as in the past. So we know that Torrey Pines South is the much harder of the courses, and it has been and was last year, and it's nearly 7,700 yards, par 72. The North course is much shorter, 7,052 yards, still a par 72. But last year we saw there was like a 3 or 4 stroke difference, I believe, between the 2 courses. So, there's strategy could be involved with that. We talk a lot about the philosophy, like last week.
Starting strong. Right?
Yeah, starting strong. Guys, if they start negatively, they sometimes go in a funk and don't bounce back.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think about that strategy this week?
I think that's reasonable. I think if you wanted to start off guys on the easier course, and we don't have the tee times yet, so we don't know how
they're not out
guys
yet.
are going to be starting. But I don't think you go across the board and just load up that way. But I think if you're going to do 20 to 30% of teams starting on easy and then kind of working your way forward, I think that's fine. Because whether or not it's an actual thing is kind of debatable, but you do see it. I mean, last week you looked at everybody who started off on La Quinta and they're up near the top at the beginning. Generally, most of those guys stayed up near the top. Yeah. You didn't really see, was there anybody big who started off mediocre or poorly on the first day on the stadium course who then rallied up to close to the top?
I don't know. I don't think
know.
so.
I don't
Not
think
that I
anybody.
can recall.
No, exactly. But a lot of those guys that started well the first day ended up finishing well for the tournament. So I don't think that's an unreasonable approach, because it's the same thing with like a guy like Wilcox last week. He starts out horrible again the first day. Actually fought back a little bit day 2 and day 3, which was encouraging to see, but it just wasn't enough. You just can't get that much momentum going when you're coming out of the gates thinking, man, I need to probably shoot a -8 today, if I want to even be competitive to make this cut. I mean, that's tricky. That's difficult.
A lot of times, and this week we're back to $100,000.
That's big. Yeah.
Prize on the $3 GPP on Draftkings. So we're excited for that. So we build multiple lineups, and within those, I have a core group of guys. And I usually do, on some percentage of the teams, do an all AM tee time and an all PM tee time, and I'll do the same with the courses this week. It's not like I'm stretching to choose guys just because of that. I like them anyway, but if you can stack them on a team, you never know what's going to happen with the weather or an easy course to start out from. So I usually do that anyway. It's kind of built into my strategy each week. So
you've seen a clear-cut strategy for how to approach this event?
Not really. No.
Kind of looked at it today and looking over the salaries. I think what most folks are going to be doing, especially as far as GPP is concerned, is you hear a lot about stars and scrubs. I don't really like a lot of the scrub range guys. I mean, I really had to stretch to say that I liked anybody in the below about 7,000. I felt really good. The last couple of weeks, I felt good about 3-4 guys below 7. This week, I'm not as excited. I think everybody is probably going to grab one stud up at the top.
Yeah.
And then the rest of their team's going to come from between around 7,100 to that mid to high 8 range.
Right.
A lot of guys in that low 7 range this week. So I think if you're looking for a way to go, or what most people are going to do, there's going to be a lot of teams that start with Day, some that start with Ricky, and a bunch that are going to start with Snedeker, and then everybody else is going to work off of the 7 to 8 range as far as filling in.
Key stats this week, we're looking at strokes gained tee to green, par 4 scoring, par 5 scoring, driving distance, especially on a 7,700-yard course. We've seen in the last 5 years a huge correlation between driving distance and success at this tournament. Last year, 7 of the top 10 finishers finished in the top 10 in driving distance, so bombers are very important this week. And then strokes gained putting will be our final stat this week, and we'll use that in our model. If you've used our model, you'll see we put our stat allocation on there, but feel free to change it to whatever you like. We've made it fully interactive, so feel free to download it and change it to whatever you like between the allocations between current form, tournament history, and stats, or just between stats themselves.
So I guess my first question for you, and starting at the top, who is going to be your top salary guy in terms of looking at GPPs for the week?
Well, so I'm a little bit torn on Jason Day this week. I think because he's only 12,000, he's not 12.5, and the field is so strong down in the $7,000 range.
Is it going to be a lot like last week where 30% own him? I think it's going to be just like last week.
I do. I think it's going to be I think it's going to be the same this week as last week, not the week before with Jimmy Walker.
Right.
Or even Jordan Spieth wasn't that heavily owned in the Hyundai. This week, I do believe Jason Day is going to be heavily owned because it's so easy to build a roster. You put Day on your roster, you average 7,600 for your other 5 guys,
and you can
and there's high quality players.
Easily do that. And so I have a bad feeling that, and give it, especially, and I think over this week, over last week, Patrick Reed, a few people with the course changes and things, and he'd been a little up and down besides winning it a few years ago. Jason Day, 3 straight top 10 finishes, including a win here, coming off of an amazing season last year.
He started slow at Hyundai, but then charged back at the end, so maybe he knocked the rust off. I think he's going to be owned, and I think 30%.
At least.
I think in the GPPs.
30%.
And I think Ricky Fowler won't be far behind that. I think he could be 25-ish.
Sure.
Right behind him, and then I think it'll drop down a little bit to DJ and Rose after that. I think they'll probably be in the 15-ish range.
You like either
18.
of those guys as a contrarian play?
You know, I really don't. I think I'll start with Day and Ricky, and then I'll drop down to Snedeker at 10,700. Sure. I love Snedeker this week.
Playing great, good history.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. And he's not a bomber, but he ranks 52nd on tour and driving distance. So, I mean, he can hit the ball, plus his putting, and he's locked in. Franklin Templeton, he won, and then he has 2 straight top 3s. So,
yeah, so he's been fantastic. I like that as well.
Okay.
Dropping down a little bit, I think he can be a little contrarian with, I don't think as many people are going to be on Matsuyama this week.
I don't think so either.
He blew the cut here last year. He was 16th the year before that. I know the guy can play here. You know the guy is a fantastic ball striker. Not a great putter, but he's got the skill set. He's got the tools, and he hits all the numbers so that this should be a course where he definitely is able to compete for a championship. And I think if you're looking for a contrarian play in that range, I think Matsuyama is your guy. He's dropping below that. There's going to be some more obvious choices in terms of guys who just have really strong course history. Bill Haas, he played well last week. He's done really well here before. I think plenty of people own him.
Yep.
I think even with CH3, Charles Howell III is a guy who's typically been just a cut maker. Then all of a sudden in the fall and coming into the early part of 2016, he's been tearing it up. 6 out of 7 top 20 finishes, and he's made obviously all 7 cuts so far. So I think there will probably be a whole bunch of people on him. And then we get to the sort of juicy 8,000 and below range. What do you like at the top for that?
So I kind of like, as a contrarian play, since we know Day and Fowler are going to be some heavy choices, and then they're going to match up with the mid to low $7,000 players.
So they skip that middle range.
Yeah, I think a contrarian play might be to roster just 6 guys in that $8,000 range.
Sure.
And there's actually some contrarian plays within there. Mark Leishman. He looked not good last week, and I think people are going to jump off that.
Yeah, for sure.
Another one is Gary Woodland.
Bad year last year.
Has shown some promise this year so far.
He's kind of improved on each outing.
Long ball hitter, and I think he's a decent play in that range. Jamie Lovemark, obviously. So I wrote, you mentioned Glover. I wrote up Jamie Lovemark in the fall too.
Yeah.
And he was showing promise, and he showed it to us last week. He can play.
Just a shame. He 3 double bogeys there in the final round.
Crazy.
I mean, he had the winning score. He just needed to hit pars on those. So it'll be interesting to see. That's one thing to watch with some of these web guys who come up. They've got the skill set to compete, but then the Sunday afternoon jitters start to hit them a little bit.
Yep.
you do see guys fold up a little bit.
One more sneaky play I'll give you is Emiliano Grillo. Not a lot of buzz going to be around him this week.
No tourney history here.
Right. No. And he's 8,900, and no one's going to be talking about him, I don't think.
No,
and he's a huge talent. So I think him in that range is also pretty decent as well for a contrarian type play.
Yeah.
Who are you liking in that range?
I like that quite a bit. Well, you can drop down to right below Lovemark, and you've got Daniel Berger, who's going to be one of everybody's favorites. He seems to have recovered. We talk about it every week. The girlfriend, blah blah blah. Whatever it is, his game is on point again. He did well here last year.
Looked good last year.
Top 15 finish, I think.
Long ball hitter.
Yeah, so I think he checks most of the boxes, and at 8,200, that's below average for what the price is. So I like Berger there. Shane Lowry, I think, is another guy who people probably aren't going to be saying a whole lot about. He had a win last season on the WGC, had a couple key tournaments where he really disappointed people. I know that's going to stick in people's minds, but he's a top 10 type of talent at an $8,000 price tag. So I like him there as well. And then kind of coming down a little bit, Patrick Rogers. We haven't really seen him yet for 2016. I think he's another guy who could probably be a pretty strong player, and he's been popular in the tournaments that he's been in with kind of up and down success. But at 7,600, I think he makes for a strong play, and I'm sure there's probably a few more guys there in that range that you like as well.
Well, I think Siwoo Kim, who was gaining some popularity last week, he was owned by up to 15% in some contests. He's still only 7,600.
It really didn't go up much.
No, that's a tremendous price for him. So I think he's going to be popular. Fabian Gomez is 7,700, and another guy who's been in solid form.
Great for the first couple events this year.
These are all really high quality guys. What I want to know from you, Zachary, is 7,500. Can you get on Tony Finau?
I think so.
Okay.
I mean, I was frustrated with him last week. And he missed, but his game sets up so well for this course. I mean, if you're looking for the long ball hitter, the guy who can score on the par fours and the par fives, that's going to be Tony Finau. He took 24th here last year, the first time around. So I'm comfortable. He missed in a big scoring event where the guys are scoring left and right. He missed by 1 stroke last week. So it's not like he was miles out of it like Ali. Right. So I don't feel like he's completely lost his form. I look at 7,500. Has a pretty good buying opportunity for him.
The one thing that hasn't been mentioned, and we should have mentioned this before, is the buzzword that we're going to hear a million times over this tournament, and that's the type of grass that it's on, and that's, what is that? Poa Anua. Although we'll hear Poana, Poa Anui, a million different versions of it, but it's important to note that, and Tony Finau plays much better on Poa Anua than Bermuda. And the last couple of weeks, he's not looked so good. So he might bounce back, and we're going to hear that a lot. So, take that into consideration as well with Tony Finau.
Very good.
Anyone else down below that range? Smiley Kaufman is 7,300.
How does he go down in price after last week? He might be one of the most highly owned guys. He could be one of the top 2 or 3 highest owned guys at 7,300.
I think he's going to be up there.
I don't know how he goes. You have an effort like that last week, and you go down from 7,700 to 7,300.
The beauty of it is he's offered consistency for cash games. He's made every cut.
7-7,
Plus, he offers upside.
Yeah, so he's
for GPPs.
Fantastic.
He's just like.
I don't know how you don't own him this week. And one of our favorites down here. This is one that I haven't made up my mind on, so I'm going to be asking you for advice right here.
One of our favorites.
One of our favorites.
All right.
At 7,400, what do you do with Robert Streb this week? Exactly my thought when I saw that. It's tempting. I mean, he's in the 9,000s a week ago, which I wasn't that excited about.
Right. I was so disappointed with Streb last week. I had him in my cash game core because he offers consistency. He looked terrible. I think I won't have a lot of Streb this week. He won't be in my cash game core.
Won't entice you at 7,400.
He will not. I just think there's better options down there. If you could have him or Smiley Kaufman in your cash game core, it's a no-brainer for me.
It is tough.
Right
I mean, even you look at a guy like Molinari right there who just makes cuts. I mean, it wasn't real pretty last week. He kind of caved in over the weekend, but he makes cuts. You got like Zach Blair who did really well here last year. So it will be difficult to roster Streb, but boy, does he have a lot of upside. I mean, if he just gets through Friday, he could be a guy who's a top 15 kind of guy for the week. So I think he's one that you got to look at for a couple of your GPP. If you're going to build 100 GPP teams, you may put him on.
Are we building 100 GPP teams?
Oh, at least.
In the $3? I don't even know what the cap is.
The limit,
is it 100 or 200?
The limit's either 1 or 2. I'll have to take a
don't know.
But he will make it onto a couple of teams. And then
I'm not giving up on Patton Kazire yet.
No.
7,100. He has so much
talent's
upside.
there.
Yep.
This is the week, I think, where his skill set really shines through. That is, when you've got a course with this kind of distance and a guy who can hit the ball this far, he's gonna be a little bit better than some of his other competitors. In the last few weeks, in the shorter courses, it's been kind of all things are kind of equal. But now you've actually got a course where distance is going to matter. I think that is going to help to give him a little bit more of an advantage.
So last week I gave you a few guys who I didn't like, and they were in a grouping. I think it was Dillette, Donald, and Horschel together. And you said, "Oh, you were outraged by me saying I hate them.
Dillette did just fine.
Oh, he did fine. What do you think? T45 or something? That ain't fine. He was not good. And then Donald and Horschel both missed the cut.
Yeah, I wasn't really on Horschel.
You said he wasn't.
I didn't hate him.
You don't hate him? I hate him.
Yeah,
I think I hate him this week too. Even at 7,100, do you like him this week?
No, I don't like
Okay, all right. So, do you hate him?
It doesn't appear that he's really gotten his game together. I mean, what was it? Was it the Hero World Challenge or whatever? What was he, like 17th or something?
Out of 18,
Yeah, so he wasn't very good. Very good there. Thought maybe once the season started a little bit, we'd see some things. Didn't really see much yet to open, so I don't know what to think of Billy. I mean, there's going to be a few events this year where he surprises us and he's contending.
Yeah, he will.
But it seems like it's going to be pretty difficult to peg that. He's not going to be the consistent type of pick that you would hope for a guy who's won the FedEx Cup just 2 years ago.
So sub 7,000. I have a few guys I'll throw out. I'm not gonna own a lot of guys below the 7,000 mark because I don't think I need to this week.
And I hate most of these guys. I have them highlighted, and I just hate most of them.
So you hate these guys, but not Billy Horschel and Luke Donald, huh?
Well, last week. It's a whole new week.
I'll give you the guys that I will have on some of my rosters sub 7,000 this week. I will have Chez Reavie.
That's the one I was going to say.
Oh, you were going to say that one? Okay, so he's at 6,700. I think that is a very strong buy on him this week. Yeah. There's a couple other. Sung Yul No at 6,900 has had some success on this course. He's kind of hit and miss. GPP, obviously, he won't be in my cash game core, but I will take a shot with him on some on my GPPs. If you want to get really scrubbish, you could drop down to like Mark Hubbard at 6,500.
7 of 7 this season.
In cuts
he's
made.
Played pretty well. It's not like he's been all in the 60s, so I don't mind that one.
Ollie Schneider-Jans is at 6,500 if you're willing to.
Is he that bad? Is he as bad as he was last week? I have a hard time. I think it was one of those things where the first day you start out terrible and then you just kick it in the next 2 days. So I really
I'll have him on some GPPs
I'll probably have him on 3. If I make 100, 3 to 5 teams, we'll have Ollie on there. I don't want to overdo it because maybe there is something a little off with the game, but I still think it's a nice opportunity. Not too many folks will be owning him there. And looking at the rest of it, maybe a guy like Johnny Vegas. He's a guy who's had some middling success. I think it was 11th last year. He's made 4 out of 5 cuts.
Yep.
He's a guy who can hit the ball a mile, so he does have a little bit of legs for you there.
Yep. I'll throw out Carlos Ortiz at 6,400. He's had some success on Poa Anua greens.
Yeah, maybe that's what he needs to turn it around because he's been miserable so far this year.
Yep. Super cheap, super scrub, but I think he's worth a shot on a couple lineups. And then Tim Wilkinson has very little upside, but has made every single cut this year, which is pretty amazing. How you can be 7 of 7 and finish in the 60s every week
over and over.
Pretty incredible.
Yeah.
But that's all I got sub 7. Who else? Do you have anyone else?
Nada. I think that is about it. Pat Perez is down there, but his form, this is the time of year when he's usually supposed to be really good. His form has just been lousy, though. He's blown the cut here the first couple of weeks. I just don't know how you jump back on him, having seen what we've seen so far. As it hasn't you're looking at this part of the stretch. This is a stretch where he should be in the top 30. If he's in typical Pat Perez form, he's in the top 30. And it's weird because he had a really nice year for most of last season, where he had a lot of top 30s and a lot of made cuts. And now all of a sudden, in the fall season, the beginning of this year, he can't make a cut anymore. So, you may put him on a couple teams, but other than that, there really are not a ton of guys down.
We'll save your other sleepers for your column this week. Check out the Daily Spin that comes out on Wednesday mornings. Zach does a nice job on that. He'll highlight everyone he likes along with his sleepers of the week. But I think that's going to be all for our webcast this week. If you have any questions, feel free to email us at info@fantasygolfinsider.com. Hit us up on Twitter. Our handle is @fantasygolfers. Zach usually handles the Twitter. Periscope tomorrow night. You've got a pretty decent following. Yep, there you go. Otherwise, that's all I got. You got anything else?
Oh, that's it.
Thanks for tuning in. Have a great week at the Farmers Insurance Open, and we'll talk to you next week.
Good luck.